cloud native, SD-WAN, analytics, machine learning, agile development and testing, edge computing, DevOps, service management, enterprise architecture, hybrid IT, neural networks, cybersecurity, serverless, low-code, no-code, big data, integration, Intellics, where we bridge modern and legacy technology and untangle the buzzwords to help business and IT leaders connect the dots to achieve digital transformation. Disclaimer: the perspectives expressed in this show are the independent opinions of the hosts and/or guests and do not necessarily reflect the position of Intellics or any companies mentioned here. And now, your hosts, Charles Arajo.
Are we entering the era of self-service BI and analytics? How will artificial intelligence and augmentation impact this future? And what does it take to build a modern data-to-insight pipeline in this era? My name is Charles Arajo, Principal Analyst with Intellics, and today I'm joined by LSP, Senior Evangelist with Zoho. And together, we're going to answer these questions and more. LSP, thanks for joining me here today.
Thank you for having me this morning on the show.
Well, I'm so excited to have this conversation because this whole area of BI and analytics is one of those subjects that, well, frankly, we've been talking about for a very long time. But I'd argue it's one that hasn't seen a whole lot of innovation, at least not until maybe recently. So before we dive in, though, I want to just tell you a little bit about LSP. As I mentioned, he's an evangelist, and as such, he's focused on creating awareness for Zoho and has been associated with Zoho for over 20 years. Over the past decade, he has worked at CTO offices, architecting business intelligence solutions. And as you're going to find out in just a few moments, he's just a great guy to chat with. So, all right, with that, let's dive in. Is this BI's self-service moment? Historically, BI has been very complex and as a result, highly controlled. But the intersection of two trends, the need for rapid access to data-derived intelligence on one side and advances in technology on the other, have led us to a point where true self-service BI is possible. But is it time? So LSP, how would you answer that question? Has the time for BI to go self-service finally arrived?
Charles, great question. The time for BI, self-service BI, actually started 15 years ago. And at that time, the demand was all around helping line of business users to be able to create data visualizations and work with data. However, what we're seeing, though, has been an evolution in how self-service BI has progressed over the last 15 years, the way I've seen it. Initially, the focus was around bringing data from applications. And then it was the onus on creating the analytical models was with the line of business user, which actually required quite a lot of IT skills even at that time. And now what has happened with the adoption of SaaS-based application and cloud-based applications, more and more line of business users are interacting with business data straight away. They don't necessarily have to go to the IT team to create those data to insights pipeline. The tools now have the no-code capability. They have low-code capability, which is allowing them to connect to business applications and get to insights straight away. So what you're seeing is evolution. And in that evolution, the evolution is also fueled furiously by AI and augmented analytics. That's what we're seeing. It's been an evolution the last 15 years. Self-service BI, the moment actually happened 15 years ago, if you ask me.
So that's interesting that this is a journey that we've sort of been on for a while. And you said something in there that I want to kind of pick up on because it's an interesting concept, at least for me. And that is you talked about that to get to this point of true self-service, that we need to be talking about modeling. But I'm not sure I fully grasp what that means. So can you explain that a little bit more?
Definitely. It's something that's critical to just about every aspect of analytics. So, like I said, initially, the focus of all these analytics, self-service BI applications was around bringing data from applications. So it could be data that you would have in files and feeds. It could be data that you would have in database applications. And at that point, like I said, 15 years ago, the focus was about bringing data. And even at that point, a self-service BI tool kind of helped only the IT teams more because it gave them an easy way to access data and to create the models for analysis. So what do I mean by models? For example, let's say you're bringing data from a sales application. what would happen is you would want to understand the relationship between the data within a sales application. Let's think about a CRM, for example, or an ERP system. So you're looking at the intra-application relationships based on which complex questions can be answered by the analytical application. So you had to create these models where you had the ability to understand the relationship between data, and that resulted in effective analysis or getting to the insights that you need to run a business. So that is about models. So models are critical part of every BI application. And what has happened again, so if I go back to the conversation regarding the evolution, the first pass of self-service BI was about helping people, or it required the models to be created. Now, more and more BI applications out there and BI platforms out there create these models out of the box because the domains are well understood. For example, things like finance, things like marketing automation, things like sales automation. These are domains that are well understood by a lot of BI providers, and they're creating these analytical models out of the box.
So I want to understand this then. So you're saying, first of all, I want to make sure I got this part clear. So you're saying the models are effectively like the context, the way that I can understand the data in relationship to other parts of the data. Is that right?
Absolutely. So there are layers out there. So there is the context within the application, right? And then there is context outside the application where if you're bringing in data from, let's say, your sales application and finance application, then you need to be able to connect the dots, because only then can you do an end-to-end financial ROI on what's the cost of sale, what's the product, profitability matrix, and all those kind of things. Again, it's connected to other parts of business. So it's about creating those different layers and different models for analysis.
And so I think you already answered part of this. You started to answer this part of the question, but what is different now then? We talked about this being the self-service era. We're entering the self-service era and maybe this evolution of it. But what's the driver of change now? Why is true self-service finally a real possibility?
It's because all these applications now, especially the cloud applications, have these exposed layers. Data is exposed. And what happens because of that is all these BI platforms are now able to plumb or harvest data from different business applications. And they create those models automatically. This has really fueled the adoption of BI with an organization. A line of business user does not have to think about models anymore because the models are pre-created by these BI platforms. They can just go from just connecting the BI platform to their business application, and all the black magic happens, and they have all the analytics that they need to consume and based on which they can take decisions.